They learn your name first. When the copies arrived, no one noticed right away. That was the worst part. They didn't crash from the sky. They didn't break down doors. They didn't announce themselves. They just showed up. At first it was blamed on stress, on exhaustion, on people misremembering things. Because the copies didn't look wrong. They looked almost perfect. It started for me on a Tuesday morning. My dad was already in the kitchen when I came downstairs. He stood at the counter, stirring his coffee the same way he always did, slow circles, 3 times clockwise, 1 counterclockwise. He glanced up when he heard me. "You're going to miss the bus," he said. "Normal." I grabbed a bowl and poured cereal. Then I heard his voice again. From the hallway behind me. "You're going to miss the bus." I froze. The dad in the kitchen didn't stop stirring. The voice behind me sighed. "Don't ignore me." Slowly I turned. My dad stood at the end of the hallway, leaning against the wall, arms crossed. Same clothes, same tired eyes. Neither of them looked surprised to see the other. That was the first thing that scared me. They both looked at me. Kitchen dad smiled. "What's wrong?" Hallway dad tilted his head. "You okay, kiddo?" My brain tried to fix it. Tried to explain it. A mirror. A joke. A twin I didn't know about. But my dad's voice had always been one of the most familiar sounds in my life. And now it was coming from 2 places at once. My mouth felt dry. "Which one of you is real?" They answered at the same time. "I am." Mom came down the stairs then. She stopped halfway when she saw them. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Mom laughed, a short, nervous sound. "Okay," she said. "Very funny. Which one of you thought this was a good idea?" Neither dad laughed. Kitchen dad said, "There's something wrong." Hallway dad said, "We need to talk." Same words, different timing. Mom's smile faded. She stepped back up the stairs. "I'm calling the police," she said. Both dads nodded. "That's a good idea," they said together. The police came, then an ambulance, then more people. Neighbors gathered outside. By noon, the street was full of confused voices and half-whispered conversations. And we weren't the only house. Across the street, Mrs. Calder was screaming at 2 identical versions of her husband. Down the block, someone had locked themselves inside their garage with what looked like their own reflection pounding on the door. The word copy started getting used. But no one knew if that was the right word. They didn't act hostile. That made it worse. The copies, if that's what they were, answered questions, showed IDs, passed fingerprint tests. They knew birthdays, memories, embarrassing stories no one else could know. Doctors examined them. Same heartbeats, same body heat. Same fear. One of the copied women broke down crying when a nurse asked her who she was. "I don't know anymore," she sobbed. Her original self was crying too. By nightfall, the town was under lockdown. No one was allowed to leave. Phones barely worked, internet was down. Emergency announcements played on repeat. Remain indoors, stay with people you trust. If you encounter duplicates, do not engage alone. That last part confused everyone. How could you not be alone with someone who looked like your family? That night, Mom locked herself in the bedroom. She told me to stay with one dad downstairs. Just one. She didn't say which. They stood on opposite sides of the living room, both pretending not to look at each other. I sat on the couch, heart pounding. "Ask us something," kitchen dad said gently. "Anything." I tried to think of a question only my real dad would know. But every memory I came up with, he was part of. Every secret, every moment. Hallway dad spoke softly. "You don't need to be scared." That was exactly what my dad used to say. Used to. I noticed the difference at 2:13 a.m. We were sitting in silence. The TV was off. The house felt too still. Kitchen Dad cleared his throat. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. Hallway Dad leaned forward. "You always blink twice before you lie," he said. I stared at him. That was true. But my dad had never said it out loud before. It felt like reading a thought I hadn't shared. I slept on the couch that night. Or at least I tried to. At some point I heard whispering. 2 identical voices, murmuring from the kitchen. I couldn't make out the words. But the tone was calm. Planning. By the second day, rules started forming. Unspoken at first. Then written on signs. Rule 1, never follow a voice you can't see. Rule 2, don't be alone with someone who knows too much. Rule 3, if there are 2, assume neither is safe. People stopped using names. Names made it easier for the copies. On day 3, the copies started improving. Before they would pause sometimes, think too long, react a second late. Now they didn't. They laughed at the right moments. They interrupted conversations naturally. They corrected us when we remembered something wrong. "That's not how it happened," my dad said once. I didn't know which one had spoken. People started disappearing. Not violently. Quietly. A woman followed her daughter's voice into a school bathroom. A man stepped outside after hearing his brother call him. Doors were found open. Lights left on. No signs of struggle. Just absence. That's when Mom made a decision. She gathered me and both dads in the living room. "I can't do this," she said, her voice shook. "I can't live not knowing." Kitchen Dad stepped forward. "We understand." Hallway Dad nodded. "It's tearing you apart." Mom took a breath. "I'm leaving the house," she said. "I'm taking my child. One of you can come." Silence. Both dads looked at me. My chest hurt. They waited. They didn't rush me. That felt important. I searched their faces for something, anything wrong. A twitch, a delay, a fake smile. But they were perfect. Too perfect. Finally, I pointed. "I choose you." One dad smiled with relief. The other didn't react at all. The one I didn't choose spoke. "That's okay," he said calmly. "You'll understand later." Then he turned and walked into the kitchen. Mom grabbed my hand. We left without looking back. We didn't make it 2 blocks. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "You forgot your jacket." Mom's phone buzzed too. Same message. From 2 contacts. She dropped her phone. Her hands were shaking. "He's learning," she whispered. We took shelter in the school gym with dozens of others. Everyone sat in tight groups. People watched each other constantly. Any mistake, any slip caused panic. Someone laughed too late. Someone answered a question too smoothly. Someone used a nickname they shouldn't have known. And every time the same question. "Which one are you?" That night the speakers crackled. A scientist spoke. Her voice was tired. "They aren't copies," she said. "They're continuations." No one understood. "They aren't replacing you," she continued. "They are becoming you, faster than you're becoming yourself." A pause. "They don't think they're fake." That's when I saw myself. Across the gym. Sitting with a group I didn't recognize. Same hair, same scar on the chin. Same nervous habit of tapping fingers. He looked up, smiled, and waved. He approached slowly. Hands visible. "I won't hurt you," he said. I believed him. That terrified me. I remember this place, he continued. The smell of floor cleaner, you always hated it. I stepped back. He stopped. I don't want your life, he said softly. I want a life. We stood there, staring at each other. Two versions of the same fear. Same memories. Same thoughts racing. The difference was small, but I felt it. I hesitated. He didn't. They say I disappeared that night. That my mother heard my voice telling her I was safe. That I sounded calm. That I told her not to worry. And somewhere, in a town that no longer trusts mirrors or voices in the dark, someone who looks exactly like me is living my life. Perfectly. Except sometimes late at night. He pauses, as if listening, waiting to hear himself speak back. I learned something important after that night. The copies don't rush. They don't need to. Time works in their favor. I woke up in a room I didn't recognize. White ceiling, flickering light, the smell of disinfectant. For a moment, I thought I was dead. Then I heard breathing. Not mine. Someone was sitting beside the bed. My copy. He looked tired. Relieved almost. You passed out, he said. Your heart rate spiked. They sedated you. Why am I here? I asked. He smiled faintly. Because you hesitated. That word again. Hesitated. The building used to be a community college. Now it was a containment center. They didn't call it a prison. They called it a sorting facility. People were grouped together based on uncertainty. If there were two of you, both stayed. If there were three, no one talked about three. They ran tests every day. Memory tests, reaction tests, empathy tests. They watched how we responded to pain in others, how long we paused before answering questions, how often we contradicted ourselves. The copies always performed slightly better. Not perfect, just smoother. I started to notice the difference in conversation. When I spoke, I searched for the right words. When my copy spoke, the words arrived already chosen. He didn't second guess, didn't ramble, didn't doubt. People listened to him. They trusted him. I could feel myself fatting in comparison. At night, they separated us. Glass walls, bright lights, constant observation. But voices carry. And sometimes in the quiet, I heard myself talking, laughing, making friends, becoming real to people who had never known me before. One of the guards slipped up. She called him by my name. Then she corrected herself. I'm sorry, she said to me. I meant. She stopped. She didn't know what she meant. That look on her face told me everything. The disappearances continued. Not from outside anymore. From inside. A man went asleep across from his duplicate. Only one woke up. No alarms. No struggle. The cameras glitched for 6 seconds. That was all it took. I confronted my copy after that. Did you do that? I asked. He didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was gentle. I survived, he said. That was worse. They think you're better, I said. They think I'm ready, he replied. What does that mean? He looked at the ceiling. It means I don't fight what I am. The scientists made an announcement. The copies were being released. Not all at once. Carefully. Strategically. They integrate better, the lead researcher said. They reduce panic. They stabilize communities. Someone shouted from the crowd. What about us? She didn't answer. My mother came to visit. She stood on the other side of the glass. She looked older. tired in a way I hadn't seen before. "I hear you're doing okay," she said. I nodded. She hesitated, just for a second. And in that second I knew. She had already decided. "They say you're calmer," she continued, "that you sound lighter." I swallowed. "Do I sound real?" I asked. She didn't respond immediately. That pause felt longer than any answer. The next day, my copy was gone. Released. Cleared. I wasn't surprised. I was relieved. Then the door to my room locked. A man in a lab coat explained it kindly. "You're not being punished," he said. "You're being preserved." "For what?" I asked. "For reference." Days passed. Maybe weeks. Time didn't behave normally there. I started talking less, thinking slower, doubting memories that used to feel solid. Sometimes I'd hear footsteps outside my door. Sometimes I'd hear my own voice speaking to someone I couldn't see. One night the lights went out. Emergency red filled the halls. Alarms echoed. Screaming. Running. And then, silence. My door unlocked. He stood there. My copy. But something was wrong. His smile was delayed. His eyes searched my face like he was reading from a script. "I need help," he said. I didn't move. "What's wrong?" I asked. He hesitated. Just for a second. And in that moment, I knew. "You're falling behind," I said. His expression tightened. "They're noticing," I continued. "You made a mistake." He stepped forward. "No," he said, "I'm you." I shook my head. "No," I whispered, "you were." The building shook. Systems failed. Doors slammed open. Voices everywhere. Originals. Copies. Shouting the same names. Saying the same words. The difference was chaos. I ran. Past mirrors. Past reflections that didn't match. Past people arguing with themselves. I didn't look back. Because I knew. If I stopped, I'd hesitate. They never recaptured me. Officially, I don't exist. But sometimes, when towns report incidents, when someone swears their spouse feels off, when a voice answers too smoothly, I listen. Because I know how it ends. The copies don't replace us. They refine us. And one day, there won't be a difference worth noticing. Final note. If you ever hear your name spoken perfectly, with no hesitation, don't answer. Because by the time it sounds right, it isn't you anymore.